Welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk ahead of our featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz. It's Peace versus Red Canids. And we've got Raz here to help break us all down. Raz, how you doing there after a marathon 5-game series, my friend?
I'm excited. That definitely woke me up, you know, over here. It's pretty early in the morning, but I'm sure the oceanic friends at home are feeling the same.
Yeah, it's prime time for them, I guess, or it's a great way to go to bed.
Well, if you get the win, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Either way, Raz, it's good to have you with us. We're diving into Peace versus Red Canids, but I want to get a refresher on these two teams, what it looked like for them in the group stage and how they ultimately ended up in this position. Let's go ahead and start with the side of Peace, and Dagda, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I think Peace have really leveled up when it comes towards their mid-game and also their team fighting, right? And I think when we're looking at their team fighting specifically, adding Vizicsacsi, having that guy who's used to playing those frontline tanks, it's really leveled them up when they come towards how they want to approach these fights. We've seen them coming in from multiple angles, playing around the way they want to set up these engagements well, and especially the ability for the frontline to actually play alongside the backline, setting up Violet for success has been crucial. And I think when we look towards Babip as well, an incredibly strong jungler. Things like the Lilia have really been stepping up massively and giving them far more control in that mid game where they've been finding success.
Raz, where are you at with this squad?
Yeah. Here's the thing, it's literally on your screen. I agree with you, Dagda, but the problem that has been plaguing them has been their early laning phase. And you know, Tally, Violet, their bot side of the map, it's been struggling early on in the game. I think they've been challenged pretty frequently. Bob has been doing well, but Babip has always been doing quite well in metas that really strengthen carry junglers. And when Vizicsacsi is joined, of course, on such short notice, a lot of the times what that means is what we saw in the first games in this tournament for them is that if he isn't supported on stacking waves, he gets dove, which is fine if they're trying to make a proactive play on the opposite side, but if that isn't present, then they just lose gold early. So if they can keep even, then what you said, amazing for this team. Their mid-game and team fighting actually comes online, but that's the one thing I'm concerned about.
All right, so it might be the right jungle meta for Babip, and he has been a star for the team overall, but definitely noted the point on lane phase for this squad and whether or not they'll be able to keep pace. But again, after that first series of the day, I'm not sure gold leads really matter at this point. And so we'll turn our attention to the Red Canids, Raz, and I'm going to come right back to you on this one. Let's talk some strengths and weaknesses here.
You know what? Literally what you came off of a point, which is what I'm concerned about Red Canids, is that what I've liked is their goal leads early. And the last series isn't really giving me much confidence now, because when they went up against LNG, the early game was actually quite impressive. And what I've heard from you know, friends at the CBLOL was the fact that, yeah, you know, in their early games, they can come out, they have strong mechanical players. We've seen players like Chitan in 2018 MSI as a strong Kalista player. I think is something that he's been able to showcase. In this one, of course, this is a CSD at 15 for Grevthar. I mean, that game didn't turn out well after the first 11 minutes, but in the early laning phase versus Icon, he was actually performing quite well. And that's what kind of plagues this team, is that when their first 10 minutes are looking good, when the early game is doing quite well for them, they start to falter off ganks, getting picked off early, especially Guigo in the top lane is something is what I've noticed. So I would just love to see them play either something basic team fight front to back, or what we saw when they went up against Hanwha Life, which was just like more of a Twisted Fate, semi-global compositions.
Now we saw the players throwing some love out to the fans there as they make their way into the arena, and that's always good to see. But I do want to put a little context to the CSD statistics that we just saw there, Dagda, because by all accounts, you know, anytime you see a negative number, you instantly think, oh, okay, that's a failing, or that's an underperformance, or at least not what you want to see. But I do think it speaks to play style to some degree when it comes to the Red Canids.
Yeah, 100%. Grevthar, even when he was brought in, was not this like highly insanely mechanical mid laner who's going to win the lane. It was all about him getting out of lane and introducing himself to the rest of the map, also bringing a bit more patience and kind of a bit more level head to their mid game. And I think that's why we're seeing him with those negative CS numbers, is about him moving, is particularly up towards this top side. They love to play around Guigo, and it's why I want to see him not on things like the gangplank we saw yesterday, but on these more carrying oriented picks where they can set up Guigo for success.
Now here's an example though of how he is forced out of his lane in order to come down and help bot lane. Sorry about that, Raz. Jump in.
Yeah, and the first 10 minutes of the game I thought was quite well for him. Of course, as I said, as the game goes on, they start to falter. This is a great example when they went up against Hanwha Life, which is this play that actually worked quite well for him. But what happens after this is really bad for Chitan, because the wave starts pushing up in, the team actually doesn't reset the wave, when they're going back in the base. So he actually falls near 40 CS behind when they actually hit that 6-minute mark when the dragon starts being taken, because it was a positive play, but they didn't think about that next step. And that's what I'm concerned about with this team, is that, you know, when it comes to TPs, when it comes to semi-globals, they're on the same page, but when it's that next step, it starts to get really rough for them.
And this is something that we actually saw a lot against PC yesterday as well, right? We got this early roam that was coming through from Grevthar on the rise, played down to the bot lane, they burned some summoner spells, and like, cool, this is 2 minutes later, we're going to see them roam straight back down towards that bottom lane and get a bunch of kills. And instead, they end up playing towards Guigo, which is more habitual than actually thinking about what does our composition want. And this is where we had that gangplank where they tried to play topside, didn't really work out, and then you never capitalize on everything that you've just gained on that bottom side. So I definitely think this is a team that needs to think more about, as Raz is saying, future pacing, what's their compositional strengths, and how can they set themselves up for success.
All right, so we've got a cursory. Oh, go ahead, Raz.
I was going to align with him 100% on that, because I think, especially with Guigo, when it comes to the early laning phase, last time he went up against Vizicsacsi, I was actually quite happy in the first 5 minutes. But then 9 minutes in that game, gets caught out, gets killed by a jungler. When they went up against the LNG game that I was referencing, gets caught out multiple times. And it is a little bit of both, of course, having a good communication with your jungler. But in those moments, his jungler was pathing towards him. And I think if they want to succeed today, it's basically being well aware of the jungle placement in this game.
All right, so we have a cursory understanding of both of these teams going into the series. As you can see, the players are getting themselves ready on the stage now. So we've got a couple more minutes before we dive in. Here's what I want to do next. I want to know where you guys are throwing your weight. So Raz, I'm going to pop right back over to you in this series between Peace and Red Canids. Who do you think is going to take it, and in what kind of form?
Yeah, you know what? It's around 3 a.m. for the people there at Oceania, and if they're awake and they've been staying up for a long time, I'm throwing the support right their direction. Last time they went up against Red Canids, it was a damn sweeping win. It was off of Vizicsacsi's incredible Kennen play as well, so I think they'll do it based off their team fighting.
All right, so they've done it once. He thinks they can do it 3 more times. Dagda, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to throw my weight behind them as well. I think Peace looked really good yesterday. I think we can end up seeing if Tali can get control of this mid lane against Grevthar. You never really get help from Red Canids to actually get Grevthar out of lane, and I feel if they start to slip behind in the early stages, Peace's team fighting in their mid game is just going to be stronger.
All right, well, this time around, I'm going to align with my analysts. Don't necessarily have a series score in mind, but I do think it will be Peace that ultimately takes it. But without further ado, let's pass it off to our next set of cans. Of course I'm making the right call, Raz. Wolf and Valdez to get into our second series of the day.
Thank you very much, guys, on the desk. Thank you so much. We are here live from LOL Park. It is me, Valdez, with Wolf, once again, bringing you this second best of 5 of the day, Peace versus Red Canids. This is going to be a fun one, as they were mentioning, for all the OCE fans. It's pretty late for them. It's also a bit late for us. It's currently 1:10 a.m. about, but we're going to power through and get this one done, Wolf. How are you doing?
It's going to be a good one. We had a pretty exciting series just before this. Did end up going the distance all the way to 5 games. This series, I'm personally leaning towards Peace taking it. I think that it might not be quite as long of a series. It might not be quite as back and forth, but we'll see what Red Canids bring to the table here tonight, because it's going to be such an important match for either of these teams. Whoever ends up taking it will advance, of course, to play against Cloud9. The loser will be eliminated from Worlds, won't have that opportunity to go to the group stage. So the analyst desk really hit on a lot of the key points going into this matchup for me as well. Is the laning phase seems to be where Red Canids can get an early advantage, but this is a world so far that has really been dictated and dominated by those mid to late game team fights, how you engage, if you get a pick before a team fight. So I'm very concerned about Red Canids when we do reach that stage of the game. And Peace, on the other side of the coin, have been so good at actually pulling the trigger and going for those really strong engages. Something that I really want to focus on the draft is, when we get to the draft, is with Babip, will they allow him to play that Lilia? Because he's been so fantastic at setting up sleeps and winning so many of those impactful team fights that have led to Peace's victories.
Absolutely. I'm pretty much on the same page with you there, Wolf. I think that Red Canids have shown some really nice stuff in the early game. Even that game against LNG was highlighted, and it wasn't even because LNG were taking them easy or they made a big mistake or anything like that. It was because of players like this.
The big stare down.
Soul. Well, we'll see if Tally can pull some stuff off like that today. He was able to carry a lot of their games in recent times, last couple of days, so definitely has been a nice welcome here to the stage as well. Violet getting ready for these games, and this is a whole new scenario, right? Because when we were watching these two teams, it was best of ones, and it was against a plethora of different teams. They had to prepare different things for the different teams. Now we're getting a best of 5. We have multiple drafts that are going to come in, and it's really important, Wolf, that you did highlight the draft, because we saw even in that last series how big of a difference it can mean in those mid to late stages if you can get a draft lead there.
Exactly, and what you do with the draft and how you push those leads. But we're kind of generalizing now League of Legends as a game, but for these two teams, it's not quite as cut and dry as our previous series, right, between Beyond and Galatasaray, because both of those teams had very stylistic differences and very small champion pools, I feel like, compared to what we know that Peace and Red Canids are capable of here. I think one of the big focal points for Red Canids is going to be Grevthar. He's got a really big champion pool, is really strong on engaged champions. We mentioned this, in Group A while we were casting their road to this elimination series, about how his set was actually quite fantastic. And a playmaker like that is what they are going to need if they're going to want to compete with Peace, who have been so lightning quick on some of these late-game team fights. And I think if Red Canids have done their homework here, you're going to have to put the focus on Babip's champion pool. You're going to want to, of course, ban that Nidalee away, like everyone did in the group stage. And I think taking that Lily away will really remove a lot of the power that Peace have once we get to the later stages.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were even talking about this first series about how Husha got his Xinjiao 4 times in a row, and then they eventually did ban it away. We'll see if something like that does happen. I mean, in this day and age, in this meta, especially when it's in play-ins at Worlds, especially before this meta really gets solidified, there's pocket picks, there's weird meta picks that are coming in, all the new jungles. We got Zed and Talon. Talon played multiple times. We got all the mid laners that are coming in. It's hard to really get those bans to a place where you 100% like them, right? Because you can say, well, we're going to focus on Babip this time, but then, all of a sudden Tally gets a Stryndamere, or they're able to first pick the MF, which has had so much success in this tournament, and even in this last best of 5 we just watched. So it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy, and I'm just really curious to see where they put their priorities here.
Well, it looks like we are getting closer to that really exciting draft that is going to be coming towards us in just a moment, because the target bans I mentioned earlier, in terms of shutting down the champion pool of Babip, right? And for the laning phase for Red Canids, trying to get a winning matchup for Guigo on the top side of the map, putting a lot of the focal point on those solo lanes for them to get that lead that they've been so successful with so far in the group stage of play-ins here is really, really important. And I think if we end up seeing a draft that looks pretty slow, or a draft that looks fairly neutral, where both teams are going for a more scaling type style of play, I really feel like that is going to favor Peace, because they have been better at decision making when it comes to fighting over those late game objectives. And if we could see also a big shift, right? If Red Canids can actually showcase a lot more better positioning, right, of their carries in the later parts of the game, and a little bit more decisiveness around those objective team fights, and they can play that same style. Based on what we know, though, in this play-in so far, I'm a little bit worried if the draft goes down that path.
Yeah, would absolutely agree. Sorry about the delay, guys. Looks like there is just a small equipment issue at the moment, so looking to get that solved before we do go into the best of 5. As I always say, better to get it solved now before, we get into the middle of Game 2 and somebody's like, oh, I just realized I have this problem. So stick with us as we will try to get this solved and get the show underway. Really curious to see how this one is going to go. Everybody's got their coffees and their World Cups, and everybody's just chilling out for now. But as we saw in that first best of 5, some of those players were looking really stressed. You were even talking about Doggo, how he had this kind of fierce look on his face as he tried to drag his team quite literally over the line. I wonder if we're going to see any big heroic moments like that here in this best of 5.
Well, and that's a really good point that you bring up, because the OCE region, historically speaking, has had some of the most fun players, some of the players who seem to be affected by pressure the least, actually, in these high-pressure situations. If you think about Pendanet GG earlier this year, that's one of the ones I think everybody remembers, is how well they played and how well they stayed cool under the pressure. Red Canids, on the other hand, don't look too stressed out going into a series like this. But Doggo, you mentioned it. I was talking to you about it earlier.
Yeah.
He looked really frustrated after those first few games, and they were able to bring that series back at the end of the day. He was able to kind of keep himself calm and collected even through the frustration. You could see it on his face. But player emotion in an elimination match like this where it's do or die, and this isn't even the last step, right? You will have to play against Cloud9. You have that additional extra match tomorrow. Then if you can win that one, then you go to the group stage, and that's when it really starts, right? Like, This is the point of play-ins, right, is the road. Can you actually walk this extremely fine line between are you going to be able to tackle those major regions? Are you going to be able to face off against players like FLICKR, in that group stage? Are you going to be able to play against the defending champions, Damwon Kia? This is where you are really going to try to make your mark. And then against the Red Canids here, it's a best of 5 now. It's no longer that best of 1. It's no longer okay, we've got one plan, we've got one strategy. This is going to evolve over time.
Yeah, and evolve it will once we do get this show on the road. We talked about nerves. Always something we need to talk about is experience coming into plays, playing stages like this, as we do have a game delay. That is one way to put it. But, there are multiple players, on the stage that have been here before. You think about Titan, you think about even Tally and Babip. They've been here before, right?
Yeah.
These guys, they have experience on a world stage, and they're trying to push it even farther, right? You get those, first worlds jitters out of the way, and then you can go on to the next time, the next worlds that you get here, and you can kind of set your sights further and say, okay, well, we made it to this so-and-so stage in play-ins. Let's try to make groups this time, and they can kind of bring their team along with them.
So we are moving to backup equipment here. Peripherals were not working, not playing nice with the software, so I'm told. So we are moving to backup. That should be resolved as soon as that is sorted out. But it's really interesting you mentioned the experience, right? Because you have Tally and Bob, both of the star players for Peace so far in the play-ins. They were the clear playmakers on the Lilia and on the Aurelia. Those are the two champions you think of as big wins for them, even in the loss against Hanwha Esports. We also got to see the Nocturne and the Tryndamere end up being really big plays for them in that final match yesterday. But when you look at the other side for Red Canids, one of their big star players is a player who didn't play until playoffs in Grevthar, their mid laner, and he's a rookie player who's coming up, here to try to make his mark on the world stage, trying to get to that group stage, and he's playing against veterans, right? And that could be quite stressful, but so far from what we've seen, he doesn't seem to crack under pressure. He's been one of the big carries for them with his engaged champions. He's played the set, the one that we keep mentioning, in particular, is one of the best standouts for him. So if he can survive the laning phase against Tally, if he can get through that part of the game, then I think there's still a chance here Red Canids take it. For me, they're the underdogs going to this best of 5, though, for sure.
Yeah, maybe that's the secret. Maybe you just got to start playing from the super high-level, high-pressure matches, and you can kind of just be molded by it. You were born in it. And, that could be the case. Another player, obviously, Vizicsacsi, has been around forever. He's been here before. Definitely looking towards him to see if he can bring some experience to this lineup as well. And, still getting this game delayed, guys. Sorry about that. I know you guys must be spamming the chat with your resident sleepers. That's okay. Maybe take a little nap. Maybe not if you're from OCE, though, because you might actually fall asleep. So, get a Red Bull in that case, maybe, and stay with your eyes open, because we still got to wait for this issue to get solved.
That's right. And it shouldn't be too much longer. We've got a lot of people working on it here, as you can see on screen. But it is going to be, I think, a lot of the pressure that comes into a situation like this, even a technical problem like this that can arise in any scenario, in any tournament, no matter where you are, no matter what stage of the tournament it is in, how you stay cool here. As you mentioned earlier, the fact that this happens before the best of 5 starts is definitely a big boon for everybody, because once this really gets rolling, you don't want to have your rhythm stopped at any point in time. And obviously that last game was quite long. It was a very grueling one for both teams involved. And so even for these teams, if you've ever played a multi-game event, or you've actually, for example, run track or in field and you're waiting for your event, like your 200-meter dash guy and you're waiting for the 100-meter dash to finish, if you're either of these teams, you prepared so much last night, you've talked about drafts, you've talked about how you're going to play this best of 5 out, and then suddenly the previous series just doesn't seem to end, and you're starting to get more and more stressed out. You're starting to get, excited, and it's like, I want to start the game. I want to get in, right? I think that's definitely on the minds of a lot of these players right now.
Yeah, and sometimes that can even, rev the nerves up a little bit more when it's like, oh, I just kind of wanted to get this over with. I wanted to get in and, you know, do my thing and get out. And, you know, sometimes just waiting all that time, it can really get under your skin. So will depend how this does go. Feels very LCK what we got going on over here, because this happens a lot where we, you know, whether it be due to delays, generally not due to delays. We have some really good production over here, but sometimes some downtime during the games. You've heard it called a lull state. And we go into a little bit of a podcast. So I feel like we're kind of slowly shifting in that direction, Wolf, because this delay has been going on for a good 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And might need to rev up those podcast engines here.
Well, usually with a delay like this, as soon as the problem is identified, it just ends, right, at that moment in time. And again, like, I'm pretty, if we're going to scale and put like on a 0 to 10.
Another good LCK word, by the way.
Yes, there
Scale.
you go.
Yeah.
If we're going to put this like on a scale of like 0 to 10 in terms of disaster, like this is closer to the 0 end, because I mean all the good things. Let's talk about the positives about this pause, okay?
Yeah.
It's a hardware issue, it's a peripheral issue. So this is not something that's going to affect any gameplay whatsoever. That's the other second positive, that the game hasn't started yet, so that momentum thing we were talking about where you're not going to stop in the middle of the game, we've got that going for us. And in Iceland, it's also not 1:20 a.m. That's the third really good thing. So these players are actually well rested. This is not the middle of the night for them. They're not actually starting to get tired. There is that, you know, impact I talked about earlier about really wanting to jump into this series. You're so ready. You're so prepared. But yeah, that's the positives I got for this one.
Okay, well, we got 3 in there. That's good. I feel like, you know, when this happens, slowly the referees come out like one by one, and it's like the ants come marching in, all trying to do their best job if possible, as it does look like we've lost a player. Aegis gonna maybe hit the restroom while we do have some time.
He also might be grabbing another backup peripheral to see if that one is going to work. That would be my guess. It's back already.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah.
Well,
I do want to give shout-outs to everybody who's bearing with us through this technical problem, as well as the Riot staff who are diligently trying to solve it, because obviously this is not a comfortable situation for anyone involved, but everyone is working their best towards it. And most of the players seem to be in pretty decent spirits regardless.
Yeah, shout out to all the fans. You know, we shouted out a lot of the OCE guys staying up really late. I think in some areas in Oceania it can be extremely late. But also shout out to the guys in Brazil who are getting up early to watch this one. Shout out to you guys as well for joining us. As looks like we are getting a look at some of the replays from their first match that they did.
Yeah, and we could talk about, you know, some of the stuff that happened for Peace on the way here. You saw it in that game, right? Vizicsacsi on the Kennen, right? Another engaged champion where they can make those sort of decisive moves happen. And that is certainly the style of play that Peace has been finding success with in those later team fights.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. And that's another reason why maybe we're going to see some stuff like the Tryndamere or other picks get banned away. But, yeah, I shouted out a lot of the fans from the 2 regions of these 2 teams. But shout out to everybody else who's also joining us from other regions, just watching to see some high-level League of Legends here on the world stage. It's been fun so far. Our second time here casting Wolf.
That's right.
Glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. Shout out to all the Brazilian fans who stayed up late to watch Red Canids. They might not be on the English language stream here, but if any of you guys are out here, shout outs to you guys.
Well, if they stayed up late, it's probably like the next day for them. So, shout out to those guys as well.
Yeah.
I remember those early days of esports, staying up all night, trying to watch the games. But guys, we are getting a word that we are going to toss it over to the analyst desk. So we'll see you guys in a bit when we do get this delay solved, and I'll toss it over to Dash.
Thank you so much, Valdez and Wolf. Definitely don't want you guys to tire yourselves out before what could be a very long series, just like the first one. I also need to call out Red Canids coach. That coat is fire.
Fantastic.
That is a fantastic coat. So in the wardrobe department right now, oh my goodness, I am a Red Canids fan, Raz.
Oh, snap. Wait, are you changing on me?
No, that's in the wardrobe. In the wardrobe best of 5, they definitely won game 1. That's all I'm saying.
He's not
Are
impressed.
you expecting Peace to just go in game 2 and start changing it up?
That'd be great.
Steal their coat.
I would love that as a new mini game if coaches all came with a full 5-game wardrobe, right? And they switched it up every single time as well.
We need the fashion walk, the catwalk in between these pauses. You know, you get the sneakers out, you do the whole shebang. I think that would work perfectly, yeah.
Now, unfortunately, Unicorn's love already out because Sheepy is somebody who I think would be a top contender in that department. Yeah. Either way, as we have seen a small peripheral issue on the stage, we've even swapped out a mouse, and we still haven't gotten it functioning. So league officials continuing to investigate that. We will get you updated as soon as possible and back into the game the moment it is ready to go. But we have a little bit more time to talk about it. And I actually kind of want to continue talking about the previous time that these teams met. While it's only, one sample size in terms of a game, I think it's important to kind of recognize the fact that, yes, it went the way of Peace, but also how it did. And the casters themselves, you heard them calling out Vizicsacsi's champion pick of Kennen. We saw it today early, definitely a lane bully, and then people moved away from it. But I think as well, besides it giving him or rather affording him the ability to control the lane, it's a massive team fight pick. And that's what the team themselves has said Vizicsacsi has really brought to the table here.
Yeah, and I think it works beautifully, right? We saw when it got to those team fights that the execution was so well orchestrated by this squad, because you had the Nocturne, you had the Kennen, you were able to come in from multiple different angles, you had great deep TP wards that were always an option for Vizicsacsi. It really felt like you had a really strong understanding from Peace how they wanted to enact the fights when they got to him. I also think one of the big things for this squad is that when I look at Tally in the mid lane, when you look at his success back in the LCO, it's very much been on these roaming style champions. The Twisted Fate 100% win rate. He's got a 63% win rate on the rise. When you look at how he's been able to enact his pressure on the map, that's been where they've found the most success. And I was a little bit worried when we saw the Tryndamere coming into the equation, because okay, cool, you get this very cool team fighter that can do a lot of work, but where does that map pressure come in? And I was really excited to see that was the Nocturne that we got picked up for Babip that was still able to provide the much needed pressure that Peace found success with.
Raz, what about you when it comes to that first outing?
I wanted to bounce off that point because I actually fully agree on that one. I think the biggest thing about Peace is their ever-changing identity. When they were in the LCO, as you mentioned, Tally being the person who's on the Twisted Fate and Rise, constantly moving. We even saw him last international event on the Galio because that was his identity, right? But being on Tryndamere and Aurelia and finding success on that, speaking to Rusty and talking about in that Aurelia game, how it was, I guess it was versus Infinity, how it was the game of his career, and he could have a tournament of his life, just being able to shift that identity. Remember, he's a person that actually plays top lane, moved towards the mid lane. He's been bouncing between both roles and is now on a carry role with this team and is succeeding. So it feels like as the tournament has been moving, they have been getting better naturally because of the point that you mentioned, Vizicsacsi coming into the team and acclimating, and now really the team playing around this new identity much more, I would say, coherently.
And that's so difficult to do as well, right? Because you look at all the issues that they've had over the course of their regular split, and then you got Chachi's added right before you come into the World Championship. You definitely were going to have some growing pains, and I've been really impressed with Peace and how quickly they've adapted to, hey, we've got a new top laner, how does that slot in? Now, obviously, we saw Chachi getting a lot of focus in those early stages, but over the course of the play-ins, we've really seen this team grow from what was kind of like, okay, let's kind of see what they've got, to now being a real contender when we come into this series and facing up against Red Canids.
Said at top of day, I'll say it again, the impressive thing for me about this squad is how the aspect of play that we would normally think would be lacking for a team that picks up somebody new only a few days before a Worlds tournament is actually the thing that they're best at. And the players themselves have kind of solidified that thought in interviews, talking about where they feel the most challenged right now is in the laning phase. And when they look at teams that eclipse them right now, especially in those best of ones, a lot of times it's because of a small error in laning phase that gets punished, and then they can't recover from it. And so I think that's going to be one of the big questions, recognizing that Red Canids isn't necessarily, an LNG or a Hanwha or something like that might be able to just absolutely take over in the laning phase. As much as they can stem the bleeding early, I think it only bodes better and better for them as time rolls on.
Exactly, and I would view it more of a training arc. The fact that they were in a group of Hanwha Life
you love
and
your
LNG
anime.
going up against, exactly. If you get that training arc, that one-on-one with Chovy, you become better of a player because of it. I think these players are taking the first few games as an amazing lesson, and I think, looking at this series and starting to apply it is the challenge. I really want to see that from, we already mentioned Tally, and looking for Grevthar from Red Canids, somebody who literally was in CBLOL Academy before CBLOL playoffs even started. He wasn't even with the team throughout the entirety of the season, moved up into the main roster for playoffs, and then had that insane finals. He's a person that is constantly developing at such a rapid pace, so I want to see if he's gotten better in this series.
Yeah, and that was, like, Raz is reading my mind. That was exactly the person that I wanted to start talking about, was Grevthar, because obviously you only have him coming in just at playoffs over in the CBLOL. So the fact that he's been able to kind of grow with this team and provide a big change in how they're acting in the mid game. One of the big things that we saw over in the CBLOL, at least from the regular season, was, hey, look, you know, you got hands difference essentially on Red Canids. They will beat you in lane and it's going to be great, but they get to the mid game and they have no clue what to do. It's why they finish in 5th back in the regular split. But you add Grevthar into the mix, he comes in, their playoffs look absolutely spectacular. He's having, as you can see, massive kills and assists at 15. It's about getting out onto the map, having the impact with, well, very similar story to what we talked about. Tally rises, Twisted Fates, get this side lane rolling and set up Guigo for success.
Those are the stats for me, Raz. I'm going to jump in here real quick just because, again, it's that K+A and the KP being first and second in the group stage. And yes, you might contrast that to the CSD differentials where he does seem to be struggling. But again, to me, that speaks to the play style of the squad, the sacrifices that he's willing to make in order to get others ahead. And ultimately, I would expect to see that across all of our games today.
What's going to be fun, and I want to see this during this series, something that Red Canids do, it feels like very much their playstyle that's unique in this tournament, is that they overload a lot, that the players move consistently. It's not just Grevthar moving the side lanes, but it's also Chitan, who's literally moving from the bot lane to the mid lane to get fights working in their direction. That oftentimes, as North American fans, as you know, LCK fans, LPL fans, we expect the support to be moving mid lane in those times. So it's like a 3v3, but they try their hardest to tip it in their favor with 4 members. And so while it's a big positive for them when they win those team fights and the enemy team takes the bait, it comes as a negative when it kind of doesn't materialize and they just lose waves on side lanes. And that's what I'm looking forward to, is if they get that fight, they will execute. But if it doesn't, they're losing gold consistently.
And if you're worried, if you had any concerns about the team's mentality, the momentum, anything like that, I think this right here is maybe enough to tell you that you shouldn't be, right? These guys, especially if they get that first win, that's where I feel like they become ultra terrifying. I know that the 3 of us predicted peace, but that doesn't mean that we can totally count out the Red Canids, where they do get that advantage. They do start rolling forward, and I think they only get scarier at that point.
Yeah, just on a side note, I love Teton on camera. I've said this already in the cast. That man is just the most animated player I've seen in a long, long time. But I do agree. I think if you can get Red Canids and get the ball rolling, this is 100% where they're most comfortable. And although we've been talking pretty extent about the changes we've seen from Peace in their mid game and them looking a lot better, slowly but surely we're getting it from Red Canids. Now, I still agree with Raz. I think there's still a lot to work on there. But certainly I don't think that this is going to be any sort of pushover. And realistically, when we looked at the game yesterday, there were very small errors that kind of blew open the game for Peace. And I think if Red Canids are able to, hey, let's not go for that, 8-minute invade where we got the TP coming down from Vizicsacsi. If you don't go for that, they had that early lead. They might have been able to work through that and get themselves into a much more comfortable position.
That's an interesting thought, right? Because there's this idea that Red Canids are so willing to make plays, right? So willing to take risks that you might almost make an argument here, Raz, that they would be better suited in this matchup specifically, not to overextend in that way. Just make sure that you go into the mid game in an even state. Find those 2v2s and those 3v3s, which you're very good at operating within, and just don't give anything to Peace that you haven't made them work for themselves.
Yes, that's why I don't want them to overcomplicate the comps when we get into the draft. I want either a team fight-centric composition that works around Chitan as an AD carry and how willing he is to go above and play that to the edge of his mechanics on his Kallistas, or play semi-globals with Twisted Fate and kind of move towards those 2v2s, 3v2 skirmishes and empowering your side lane in top lane for Guido. So that's what I would want for this team. I think if they try to do what they did versus LNG and try to play split push, then they start to really unravel. Because if they do have players on side lanes, their 3 does get cut off pretty frequently through mid lane. I don't want that. simplify it, play team fight, scrap versus Oceanic teams. I know Oceanic teams know this matchup versus the Brazilian teams very well. It's been like a historic matchup through the years. So stylistically, people are kind of comfortable with this.
Yeah, look, don't make Raz mad, all right? We put Raz in a little box down there, and the last thing I need is for him to go crazy in there trying to get out and come after you. So don't make Raz mad, but I'm hearing word that we are just
I'll take that flight.
I know you will, my friend. I know you will. I'm hearing word that we're just a few minutes away, so as we give officials this final time to resolve the peripheral issue, we're going to take a short break, and we'll see you on the other side for Game 1 of this series. Stick with us. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here at the desk at LOL Park, bringing you the action for Peace versus Red Canids. And we have started the draft already. No more issues. Everybody in OCE, get those eyes wide open because we are beginning. Peace on blue, red on red.
And now, Red Canids will ban away the misfortune. They've taken away Tally's Irelia. So already, coming prepared to the series, it's not the first team to ban the Irelia away. One of the most highly contested picks here at the World Championship for 2021. The question is, what comes third? Because the Rise will be taken away, and this does mean the Lilia is available. Not going to be first pick priority, but something to consider here for Peace moving forward into this draft. They'll take the Lucian, which is very strong right now. Compare that with a lot of strong supports on the bottom side of the map. Second highest tier in terms of the 80 carries. But now you've taken away that Vizicsacsi engage tool that we found so much success with there in the group stage leading up to this elimination match in the Kennen. They'll also grab Aegis's Lucian, which is one of his stronger champions.
Yeah, definitely a couple of good choices. You're not really going to pick away any supports at this point in time. And we'll see if they give more thought to their AD carrier if it does get third picked for them on the side of Red Canids. But this Nami, definitely one of the choices alongside of Lucian. Everybody heard about how strong this duo is coming into Worlds. And of course, Lucian will be popping off with that help. So we'll see how that does go for them.
It hasn't been as successful, I think, as a lot of analysts predicted, and it's even been often ignored by a lot of teams. But, you know, considering how strong this bot lane can be, I think it's a really strong option here this early on the draft. Now, moving away from both the Nidalee that's open that we've seen so much out of Babip, and also away from the Lilia. We've seen them find so much success with late game engages. They're actually going to take the Rumble here. So a very unusual pick here this early in the tournament. Now, could be flexed, of course, to a solo lane. But right now, the assumption is going to be that it's going to be for that jungle, as we will see the Leona, very hotly contested pick, will be taken away before the AD carry here. So now, on the side of Peace, you have the ability to narrow down what Titan can play with this.
Yeah, definitely will be a good option for them. Of course, I mean, there's so many mid lane champions that are still left available, even with a couple of bans that we did see. So I don't think banning away mid lanes is going to be a great idea, unless you want to specifically target one thing away. But we will have to wait and see, as Nocturne is going to be taken off the board here, so not going to see that from Peace this time around.
Yeah, taking that one off the board means that Red Canids also are thinking this is going to be solo lane Rumble. We see the Callista removed here as the first option to take that away from Titan. Can definitely be something that you can have a lot of power with early on in the lane against a duo that is so oppressive in the Nami and Lucian. Could also now remove, as you see, the Tryndamere gets taken out. They're just banning all the champions that Peace have found success with in the group stage. You could now see the Ezreal potentially banned here as well. End up being fine for the later stages of the game. We've already got really nice engage and pick potential with the Lucian, and the Kennen. You have that later scaling, it's going to be quite strong. And they decide to take away the Kai'Sa because the Kai'Sa does also go into that sort of theme, especially when you do have that Leona. But I think the Ezreal is the stronger pick here. Hovered for a moment there for Titan, and that's what I expect them to lock in, and there it is.
Yeah, Ezreal definitely one of the best things that is left available. That lane can be a bit weak, especially early on, so we'll expect Violet and Aladoric to have a pretty fun time early, but we'll see how well Titan can do as this game does come along. Now we're looking at more picks for the side of Peace. There will be one Sylas that does get taken off the board. Already a lot of great ultimates to steal, especially in terms of utility and damage. You think about Leona and the Kennen that is there. And we should be expecting Tally to be picking that one up, as Red Canids had not been showing their mid lane just yet.
Jarvan to be the final pick here, coming through for Peace. Looks to be, as it's hovered here. The real question now for Red Canids is what's going to be the mid lane here, because Grevthar has such a wide champion pool. He's one of the most talented players to come out of the region. A lot of pressure on this player, and we'll see what he ends up having to lane against Tally Sylas with. Obviously a really, really strong pick where you can make high impacts through the mid game, control a lot of those early objectives.
Yeah.
As we see how that pick comes through, I think it's really going to shape how Red Canids draft works, because right now it's got good engage, it has pick potential. And Kled, Kled is one of the picks that Grevthar actually used as a counter pick to the Sylas specifically. You go back to playoffs, he actually played it twice in the regular season, or actually once in regular season and once in playoffs, specifically against the Sylas in mid lane. It's a really odd pick. It doesn't scream something that you'd normally see, but it has a lot of dual potential, and it's something that Grevthar has found a lot of success with. It's one of his specific counter picks from his region. And I didn't expect we'd see it come out here. I thought if we saw it, we'd see it in the group stage for sure. But with Sylas coming through, he's going to lock it in. It's also the Rumble going to the top side of the map.
Yeah, absolutely, into that Kennen. And yeah, I mean, this is the time to pull it out, right? It's all on the line. You got to walk this walk all the way through play-ins and try to make it through all the best of fives. And if he has a pop-up performance on this one in game one, that might even be a considered ban. You know, it's something that really throws a wrench into the works if Peace are not ready for this. So really glad we get to see it here in game number one. I know you were itching to get that point out there, and he actually did pick it. So really cool to see, as even Tally's having a little giggle after watching that. And we'll see, you know, how Grevthar matches up. Can he pull off a Doom B type performance on this mid Kled?
That's the question, right? I mean, it's something that you can become famous for, right? This could be a new rising star from Brazil here for Red Canids. You know, you end up taking out Tally, who's very experienced here. If you can end up winning this first game with such a unique pick here, it's definitely going to be something that fans will remember for, you know, many, many years to come, especially the Brazilian fans who are cheering. They know this pick. They watched it in their home region. And this is what's so exciting about a best of 5, too, is in a best of 1, yeah, this feels like a really sick pick, but you can only do this once in a best of 5, so you will have to evolve. The draft will have to change. And there's no doubt in my mind the Peace, you know, Oregon, their coaching staff, knew about this potential counter pick, and they feel very confident they could deal with it. As we got a pause, seems to be you and I's curse tonight for us, today for people elsewhere in the world.
You trying to put on the Aussie accent? I see you. I see you. Yeah, I don't know what this one is about, guys. Sorry about this delay, but we will try to get it solved as soon as possible. And, yeah, no, I mean, this is, you know, Grevthar looks really happy with the way it's going, even with the pause. I mean, he got to play this pick already in game number 1. And I was thinking about, you know, like, potential mid lanes that could go into it. I was thinking about some control mages, but at the end of the day, it would have been, like, way too much AP damage, and I really love just going again for kind of what's working in the meta nowadays. We see a lot of AD mid laners. Obviously, the Tryndamere coming in here big, and a Kled. I mean, why not? He even went for no flash, by the way. He went teleport ignite. Yeah. So this is all pressure all the time. He's got Conqueror. He's going to be running at the Sylas, and he's going to say, yeah, sure, if you want to throw down, I mean, I'm always down. I'm Kled, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how hard he can pop off.
They also have the Lucian that can pair with this really well to try to really snowball that lane and to try to keep Sylas down, prevent him from actually making that impact that we see so often through the mid game. And if you play the control mage into this, you were mentioning the AP damage is an issue, but it's also somewhat of an issue of dealing with the risk factor, right? In play-ins, you know, we see a lot more solo kills than you see at some of the higher tiers of pro play in some of our major regions. So you end up falling behind against the Sylas at this stage, and Tally starts to pop off, gets those first few items online, and sometimes the game could snowball against you. And as was mentioned by the desk, and we talked about it, you know, if you can think back, way back to our first draft cast before we went back to the desk and all that. Like I did mention this earlier, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I do want to mention again that the strength of this team so far has been leaning into their laning, right? And that's why if you end up playing something like Control Mage, you don't necessarily have as much power necessarily in that lane. And if you do fall behind, the tempo goes so far against you that I like this pick a lot more.
Yeah, well, it looks like this pause is not going to allow us any time for the podcast, so sorry for you podcast enjoyers out there in the chat. We will just get right back into the League of Legends, and that's really what we want to get going on, right? It's 150 here in Korea. We're starting off with game number 1, and I'm just really excited to get into the League of Legends and actually be casting these games, as Red Canids is just going to move in as a team, get a ward down, as Aladoric doesn't have a scanner just yet.
Not quite. Going to be able to clear that one away. We'll see Vizicsacsi on this Rumble. Fairly fragile pick up here on the top side. Doesn't have a lot of mobility, and this is the path that a lot of teams have actually attacked Peace most directly. As Vizicsacsi returns to pro play here, again, he's a stand-in if you're tuning in for the first time here for Peace. And so we've seen a lot of teams really try to collapse on and dominate the top side of the map. So something to look out for here against this Rumble pick. Again, a very rare one in this meta to see come through.
And as we did mention about 20 minutes ago, Violet and Aladoric here on the Lucian Nami should be dominating this lane early on. I mean, the Lucian Nami, we know what it can bring in terms of dueling potential. Its lane power is pretty insane. You know, the Ezreal in the super late game, if he does get 3-4 items, he is going to be enjoying his time. But we've seen a lot of Lucians, especially nowadays, how there's like so many enablers for him and how strong he is even in this bottom lane alongside of the strong supports. How much work he can do even as the game goes to 30, 40 minutes long.
Yeah. And the reason why this is so oppressive is because Nami has insane sustain, but she can also empower Lucian's auto attacks with her E. So she becomes a really oppressive duo to deal with, and that's part of the reason why we did see that Kalista ban come through, because it's one of the champions that can deal with this early. But look at the damage.
Oh, he's going in. Violet's already looking for the kill, but the Ignite is down from Jojo. As 1Q is going to do it. Titan moves forward and gets the kill. First blood to him, but Aladoric trying to fight back. He's going to miss on that Zenith Blade, and now he's chasing Jojo down with this range advantage. The one stun goes the way of Jojo, but it will be one ability and an auto from Aladoric, and at least he will pick up a couple of kills.
Very greedy to look for that fight as Red Canids here, because you're looking at dealing with, if you end up losing out on this exchange completely, if they end up getting a double on the Lucian early, this lane is basically over. You're going to be sitting under tower. You're not going to be involved in this game. Like, you might actually lose a game off of that moment. And if he doesn't hit that Q and actually secure that kill, this could look even worse. Luckily for Red Canids, 2 of the kills, both of them, go to Aladoric on the Nami. So that's going to be a little bit less gold going over to Violet here. But looking for the re-engage is so aggressive because they're not in turret aggro range here. And yes, the Ignite will hit. They do get the stun there. And look at that. If that does not connect, this situation is way more dire, and it still ends up being a double going over to Aladoric.
It's just a crazy reaction time from Titan to communicate with his support and say, okay, I'm going to land this stun, even with this flash. And just, you know, a big gamer moment there, I suppose you can say. Was the idea to go in there the right one? Not 100% sure, as you were highlighting, Wolf. But at the end of the day, I suppose at least Titan is ahead of Violet in terms of gold.
It also resets the lane back to the center here, and you get to kind of get a new lease on the matchup. You have a small experience lead as well. Here is Titan with that kill coming through. So there are some really good reasons why this play was made, and if it had gone a little bit better, if it was a more ideal scenario, it could have actually led to a pretty nice advantage. They've got a small CS lead at the moment. But if you look at the mid lane, it's been, you know, Grevthar kind of continuing to push through. Wants to clear that control ward out, but will be unable to do so. He's actually held this on put this pressure onto Tally pretty successfully here.
We can see this matchup in the mid lane presented by Mercedes. Tally versus Grevthar. It's going to be going head-to-head, and this is really the one to highlight, especially not even just for this best-of-1 because we do see the Kled, but also for this entire matchup. Could see a lot of fire between these two mid laners that have made a big name for themselves. Grevthar a little bit more recently, you could say, but either way, still good.
It's a very slow-paced game to start things off between these two. Obviously, with the group that we had, with LNG and Hano Life Esports at the top, a lot of the games played in this group were extremely early game focused, a lot of aggression, a lot of kills early, but this one, you know, yes, we did see the 3 kills early on, but it is very much focused around the laning phase and not actually ganking. As Vizicsacsi takes a really nice trade here against Guigo on the top side of the map. Yep. But I actually expected this to be a little bit more action everywhere, especially with this Lee Sin pick. Doesn't have level 6 just yet.
He actually denied that cannon with that teleport. That was really cute. Nice play from Tally. And that's going to be kind of awkward for Grevthar. He's just going to back away and go for his own teleport, probably, is what we will see. Babip is down here. He's looking for the Scuttle Crab at the moment. And yeah, as you did mention, I mean, both the junglers especially, they're just kind of farming out the jungles, going for the Scuttle Crabs. Nothing much else is doing for them. They haven't been looking for any plays elsewhere. As we do see the two jungles kind of clashing around the bottom side of the map, there's going to be some vision, and now a teleport coming in. Violet in some trouble, but the bubble is huge as Aegis, he takes a long time to get this kill, and finally he does. But can they get a bit more? Babip is going to go down as well to the side of Kled as Jojo is trying to frontline here, and Grevthar is just going to leave him out to dry. Not much he can do to try to help him as now Guigo comes into the fight. They're going to try to take this 2v3, but the exhaust comes in, and Red Canids have overextended. Aladoric is right there to shut that down.
It's going to be a lot of extra gold going over to the side of Peace, and you can understand the idea there with Guigo coming in and looking for that engage. He hit level 6, he wanted to teleport in and hit that slicing maelstrom, but sometimes you got to know when it's time to just step back and go, okay, I used my teleport here, but this is no longer a situation where I want to engage, because now you've kind of gone all in on the sunk cost fallacy, use your flash and the slicing maelstrom and don't come up with anything, end up giving more gold over the side of Peace. You can see how this engage starts here. Ward gets dropped. Violet in a very, very vulnerable spot. That's such a huge Aqua Prison there to actually slow down the chase. Still ends up going down here, but now you're so deep as Red Canids. And you see the teleport is so delayed here from Guigo. By the time he gets here, his teammate is already dead, and he still decides to go for the flash here. Not able to catch Vizicsacsi, who's got the faster flash, and does end up getting picked off. So big overextension here, massive kills going over to the side of Peace.
Yeah, good response from Peace to just get the wraparound there, as now Guigo in a little bit of trouble. He does not have his flash. He had to burn it on the play in the river, and that is a perfect follow-up. Look at the timing right here, 7 minutes 55. Babip goes up to the top side, has some help on the gank, and they will start up that Rift Herald.
Yeah, it's going to be such a massive play here because you know that not only have you gotten that tempo advantage, but Guigo has to rush back to lane as quickly as possible. He's desperate to grab that CS. He doesn't have flash. You're the perfect spot to turn that pick into a Rift Herald. Even if you don't get the kill, you should be able to force him under turret, but they get the kill and they're going to get the Rift Herald with this. And unfortunately for Red Canids, they didn't have enough control over the bot side of the map at that stage to look for a Drake play counterwise. So everything looking great for Peace right now. They've got full control over this map.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing you could say, I suppose, for the Red Canids is that they, as a team, they realized very quickly, okay, we lost our top laner. We cannot go in on this Rift Herald, right? We have to sacrifice it. Just give it up. And so they looked for opportunities elsewhere on the map. They were actually able to zone away Violet from about, you know, half a wave, maybe a full wave down in the bottom side. You see, even the plate didn't go down, but, you know, that's really the one thing they were able to get. But I do like that they don't do you know, what some of our lower LCK teams would do, which is just bang their heads against the wall and run at the Rift Herald and desperately try to challenge it, because they just said, okay, we lost that objective. We don't even have teleport on Guigo, so just let it go and get something else on the map.
Oh, we talked about how this Sylas pick against control mages can be something that gets out of hand if you make some mistakes in lane, something that shouldn't happen, right? But we do already have a kill and an assist going over to Tally. He's now picked up a Dark Seal, so he's looking to carry that momentum forward here. And this is where things can really start to get scary for Red Canids, because, hold that thought, speaking of mid lane.
Trying to force this here, Tally. Both gonna proc their Conquerors. Babip, meanwhile, is nearby, but you see Aegis is up a level, as now we get the double lockup here with the wave, but the culling comes in. Is it enough damage, as the 1Q is gonna get the job done, as emotes go flying? And Titani's even trying to challenge this one, the flash forward, and in he goes. The exhaust was held onto, and it will be a double kill for Violet as Titan gets the one. But we're not done yet. It's going to be a dead Sylas in the mid lane as he gets charged on with not much escapability for him.
Now this is the kind of action I expected to see at the beginning of this series. We had a pretty slow early game outside of that bot exchange, but now the sparks are really starting to fly here. Guigo getting pushed out of lane, but the timing of that first wraparound we saw from Aegis to go to the mid lane was trying to look for that timing where he can actually have that kick advantage, come in there and pick Tally. Doesn't find the success there, but on the second wraparound, he is able to kill the Sylas there. Bring a lot of power back to Grevthar here. They do trade a kill there on the bottom side of the map. Red Canids fighting tooth and nail. The problem is that these trades are never really equal, and Peace are still getting small advantages, small edges on the map. Vizicsacsi got a plate on the top side, and this first Drake hasn't been taken just yet, but Peace are in a superior position. Look at the group up now here on the bottom side. That Nami Lucian is still extremely oppressive at this stage, and contesting the Drake right now for Red Canids is just really out of the question.
Absolutely, as we do have Gore Drinker here very early on. Thank you to MasterCard for that one, as now the Rift Herald will be placed down on the bottom side of the map. Try to give some gold over to Violet here, as he will not get any, actually. 320 goes into the pockets of Babip, but it's still a lot of pressure to get this Drake, and that's really the big play anyway. That's what they were going for, so they're going to get this one at about 11:30.
So these are the small advantages that you use, you know, in a game like this to try to keep your tempo advantage up, right? You've got a tempo-based bottom lane that has so much pushing power. You have that Rift Herald that you got early off of a big misplay, where Guigo loses flash, gets ganked on the follow-up, and all of the steps that Peace are taking here are pretty standard pro play, but the way they're utilizing that pressure, yes, they didn't get the perfect plates there on the bottom side there to Violet, but they utilized the pressure to grab the first Drake. They've got such a nice tempo advantage right now, and we talked about it so much. Red Canids' successes so far have been around this part of the game where they're the ones who get the tempo advantage. They're the ones who start the leads. They fall off much later on in terms of the decision-making around those late-game objectives and engages, especially when Grevthar's not on something like the set where you can really be that playmaker. And this time, they're already starting off a little bit on the back foot. The tempo was against them. So this is going to be a really challenging game to recover from.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to wait and see if guys like Grevthar, who is currently 2-0, keeping up in CS as well, or maybe even the Ezreal, who, as we can tell, Titan looks very angry. He sees action, he goes in on the action. There is no stop button for this guy. And he's picked up a couple of kills. So in terms of that, it's going to get his Ezreal online a little bit faster. As, yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate down there, but it is okay. They wanted to get their better backs in, as it does look like the supports might go for a little bit of a roam. Maybe Jojo up to the top side. Top lane, Vizicsacsi, after all that's happened early on, though, he's been really enjoying one of the most comfortable top lanes we've seen.
Yeah, no, he's definitely having one of his best so far of the tournament, taking a very comfortable nearly 30 CS lead right now. He's got 2 kills and an assist of extra bank. Guigo finally does have his flash, his slicing maelstrom, and his teleport available, but there's no objective to gain value out of this teleport right now, so he's just really sitting under turret here and trying to manage his farm, which is really unfortunate because if he had those summoner spells earlier when those fights did break out, he could have actually made such a huge impact. His teleport was so late the last time he used it. So we're going to see a big roam here, spotted by that massive control ward here.
Yeah, that ward gets so much value for them. And maybe Grevthar just assumes that there's a regular ward around them. But let's see how long that control ward will get value here for the side of pieces. We're going in. The exhausts are out as well, able to dodge the wave coming on in, as now the ultimate is going to get the job done here for Titan, as he finally will get the upper hand down here in the bottom lane.
Yeah, Babip is around, though. They can try to turn this.
We're going to try as Jojo in a little bit of an unlucky spot, trying to get aggressive, solving some vision, and he should be taken down here eventually. Titan not able to help him out all too much, as it's not like he brought heal. He has exhaust this game.
Still a lot of really important gold for the Ezreal that is going to come online much later to be picked up. And these trades we're seeing from Red Canids have really started to help him get online. They're accelerating him forward faster than he would be. Yes, it's at a cost because the Lucian is getting some power too, but the Ezreal is going to be so strong the later phases of the game. And trading like this makes his road to that late game path a lot more comfortable. And see, as we go back down to the bottom side here, Babip and Aladoric are going to go ahead and take the turret away from him. But that engage we saw too from Violet. Hold that thought.
Oh, we're getting in there. That stun, not able to lock him down for long enough, and he's just going to hop off a Scarl. Jojo going to make this a little bit easier for him as well. And Grevthar will be just fine. Nice little trade, though, as now the charge has been picked up by the hijack of Tally.
That's going to force him to back here to remount. We'll be okay. He was able to CS off of that with his Q. His dismounted Kled loves to do with those weak minions. Is once again another exchange up here going to force the rush out of Guigo. And this has just been, you mentioned it earlier, I feel like the most comfortable Vizicsacsi lane we've seen all tournament long. Nobody is really able to put the pressure on him. He's not being capped. He's so ahead, has his Proto Belt up super early, or Rocket Belt I should say, so early that he's so survivable, can actually chase and harass. I mean, the control that is in this top side of the map is so comfortable right now for Peace that they can keep their focus on the bottom side. So we'll see a rotation up here from Titan.
Yeah, looks like they want to make a play here with the charge and the Rift Herald, but have they gone too far? That's a lot of Lucian damage for free into the back of Grevthar, as the stolen charge is going to get on in there. A 3-man knockup from Babip, but he's taking a lot of damage. Down he will go, as here comes Guigo now. He's going to pick up a bunch of them in the backside. Does get exhausted, but still is going to get a lot of damage done, as Titan is going to get bubbled now. Has to flash that one, as that was looking so good to start here for the Red Canids.
Yeah, Titan here actually buffering that away, just barely escapes getting locked down. He's looking for a kill.
Oh no! He just got totally outplayed. Titan's like, sorry dude, you can't stay here. Titan, he is so angry in this game, he is out for blood.
I feel like Titan is just like, I don't care what's happening, I don't care what I'm up against, I don't care what the stakes are, never tell me the odds. He is just forcing these kills to happen, and this time he's like, well, you know I'm ranged, you know I'm going to keep autoing you. Down Tally goes, and that's a kill that just should not have happened. Grevthar is actually going to come up here and pick up a flash. It's action everywhere in this first game of this best of 5. And as it stands, you know, this is now an Ezreal. I was talking about how he's trading kills, coming back at this, who has 5 kills at this stage of the game, and this just shouldn't be happening. So watch how the start of this fight goes. You feel very comfortable, you feel very safe as Peace here, because you have the Nami ultimate to kind of buffer this attack and then re-engage. And look at the engage here from Babip. He gets all the way to the back with the flag drag, but Grevthar doesn't get dismounted until too late, so they're easily able to turn this. And yes, Guigo's finally able to get some value out of the teleport, does get traded down, and then this happens. The buffer allows Titan to survive, and then Tally just walks right up. This is the most puzzling part.
It never ends, Wolf. Are they going to go in on this? It is Kled, and he still has Skarl, so will not actually play out here. As Guigo now just going to go down to the bottom side and look to push this turret, and immediately, like we were saying, you know, this Ezreal gets some time. The Kled, he's also still online, still 2-0-1. Grevthar's going to be dropped down here. Red Canids, they're coming back with the force in a mid-game. That is really nice to see.
Yeah, it really is, and now they're going to look for this extra inner turret value, worth more than the outer, and they're going to get it here. And that's a lot of extra gold going into the pockets of these Red Canids members, including Titan, who's already getting quite fed. What's scary about this for Peace is that, oh, that thought!
Grevthar is so confident right now. He's charging quite literally into the 3 of them. He hops off Skarl, though, as his team takes forever to get here, and down he will go. As Babip, now he's got a stopwatch. It's going to buy so much time for him to survive. And there's the double kill now into the pockets of Violet, and this is going all Peace's way. Look at Tally. He has no chill right now. He's in the enemy jungle alone. His own team is like, why are you going so deep, buddy? As down he will go. Maybe it was just a great bait after all as the flash comes in, and at least they will be able to pick up Guigo. As Titani might not be done yet. He picks up a kill, and this is just getting out of control right now.
I didn't think anything could top the last series. I didn't think anything could top it in terms of kills per minute and the amount of action we were seeing, but Red Cannon said, hold my Ezreal, because look, now he's got 6 kills here, so we will see a teleport.
Babip used his flag. He doesn't have flash either. And yeah, just gonna wait on that one. A little bit of BM coming out. He might have his flag now, but still not going to be enough health to survive. And that's a nice kill onto the jungler here as they're running towards the mid lane. Doesn't look like they'll go for the Barons.
Some of that deep vision is going to be key when these teleports are available and getting pickoffs. As, you know, both teams are really wrestling for control of these waves, and when you're not really playing a 5v5 game of League of Legends, when there's action non-stop and part of your team is always dead, clearing those wards away is essential, but it's also dangerous. So I'm not sure which action we're going back to here for the new Axe Effect replay. We're actually going back to Grevthar. How long he holds us. Now, the problem with this play initially is that there is no teleport to match, and this is not a game where you're looking at Ghost Blades on your AD carry, Ghost Blade on your jungler. So maybe what you're looking at here as Grevthar is you're thinking the rotation over is going to be a lot faster, but not with the champions they have, not with Guigo having his teleport down again. So he ends up getting caught there, doesn't end up being the play they want. A little bit of an overextension here for Tally, but they still trade up.
Yeah, I mean, at least they get Guigo, who's probably not worth all too much, but still able to get that really nice angle here. Titan, as we're getting super cool angles now, gonna take down the poor Nami, and is not able to get the other guy. But that is fine. Still great for Titan. He gets another one, and Babip, he's having some trouble. You know, he's gone for this Gore Drinker combo, as you will normally see, but he's kind of falling apart like paper because he's getting so far into the back line, but he's ending up being the only person there. And Red Canids just focus him down, and he just dies so quick.
The other thing is that Titan is so fed at this stage, and no one can really threaten him. There's no assassin that's going to be able to chase down this Ezreal because he's so mobile already, and Sylas can't be everywhere he is. He needs to sit back and farm. So whenever you get caught out like that, you're just going to get picked. Speaking of getting caught out,
Vizicsacsi, you know, just taking a nice little long walk by himself through the jungle. And at least he's able to get out of that one alive. This dragon about to spawn as well. Both teams have a dragon apiece. One Infernal, one Mountain. It is Cloud Soul. Yeah, looks like Red Canids want to focus on that one.
Yeah, and if that was the vision control is map split. The bottom side of the map is much more controlled by Red Canids. The top side of the map obviously controlled by Peace right now in terms of that warding. and it's a bit of a battle in terms of clearing that vision. But what Red Canids have been able to do so successfully here is actually look for picks when Peace decide to go into that vision to try to clear it away. And yes, you're going to see Peace get a little bit of value there on the top side, but Red already got that earlier turret. They're now going to pick up a second Drake here. It's going to be the first Cloud towards the Cloud Soul. And the value that you get here without getting this turret is not the same for Peace. So having that vision on the bottom side of the map is a lot more successful. It's a lot more impactful at this stage of the game. Later on, yeah, you're going to want that vision control around the Baron pit. But at this stage, very much Red Canids favored. In this game, which looked like it was starting off so well for Peace, they had such a great control over the bottom side of the map, got that early gold lead. It's kind of withered away a little bit here. It's still a very close game, don't get me wrong, but the power of what you're going to have between this Rumble versus the Kennen is the Rumble is going to have a lot of late game damage in that initial fight, but the Kennen is going to have a lot of lockdown to start off the fight. He's going to have the CC, so that vision is so important. You got to make sure Guigo can't teleport behind you to set up for those maelstroms. And look at the vision control once again. Now Red Canids going to take it away from the top side of the map.
Yeah, you know, they feel very confident, kind of Teton with red buff, and speaking of which, they're looking for a bit more. Babip just goes the other way. He's like, no thank you, sirs. I will not buy what you are selling. And he just gets the hell out of there really, really quickly. Actually, that was a really cute maneuver from the side of Babip. But you can see just how scary Teton and crew are. They're looking for the engage. That's a nice idea. Teton doesn't have anything up. He doesn't flash. He doesn't exhaust. Accepts his death. And there's Babip finding the perfect time to engage. And it looks like they'll start up the Baron.
This is such a huge moment for Peace. I said it was really hard to lock Teton down, but from that angle, they just didn't see it coming. And without that damage, you just can't fight this anymore. This is a really awkward spot to be in for Red Canids. There's the teleport.
Yeah, we have the teleport coming in. They're just trying to kill the enemy jungler, and the stun comes down with the solar flare, and it will be enough. Guigo is able to take down a lot of the damage, though. Takes the bottom lane away from the side of Peace, as Guigo will eventually hit the ground. But you can see that Peace now with the Lucian down. They cannot do the Baron.
Now, this isn't a great trade for Red Canids in terms of kills per kills, but the investment in the teleport, the flash that Guigo had to use there, these are tools you have to expend if you want to stop the Baron, because without Teton here, you're not going to have the damage to actually push them off of it. Luckily, they had that control ward with that deep vision they've had so consistently throughout this first game. He gets into the back line there, is able to get a kill, push them off it, had to expend both summoners to do so, but it's so critical. And how many times have we seen the choke point around Rift Herald, the choke point around Baron, be such a death grip, be such a chokehold when these Kennen teleports come through? And yes, Peace do get that pick onto Teton, which allows them to start it. And it's really unfortunate you've got to expend both summoners here as Guigo. But look at the angle he comes in here. It's so late, but it's so necessary, because if he doesn't come in here, they just clean up Aegis, they clean up Grevthar, and they just turn right back on the Baron. So this is so important. You're not trading up in gold, but getting that Baron at this stage of the game would be so massive for Peace. It's a lose-lose scenario, but they took the lesser of the two evils.
They absolutely did, and you can see the reaction here from the side of Peace. Gigantic high fives, some of the biggest I've ever seen from the guys in the back there. As you can see, Peace, they're really happy with the trade up at the end of the day anyway. Pretty big gold swing into their favor, I believe about 3,000. And it shows that Teton can't just do whatever he wants, right? If he's going to eat forward, he's going to get jumped on by Jarvan. That's one of the things that Jarvan can do, something like a Rakan, right? You have to respect the engaged potential of these picks on the enemy side. So it doesn't matter if you're a super fed Ezreal if you're going to eat forward in that moment. So see if he can respect that. We are going to see the equalizer come down here. It's got a pretty low cooldown at this point in time. Vizicsacsi nearing level 16 at this point.
I mean,
Nami
Nami
trying
is
to poke it down.
Nami is such a squishy support, but if she can actually lock down a single target that is vulnerable, you know, Jojo being one of the toughest ones to actually kill off of a bubble like that, it's so much power. So appreciate the attempt there. They've got the equalizer now on cooldown. So Red decide, okay, they don't have equalizer. They're not in a position to contest this. We have the choke point control. We have slicing maelstrom. We're going to start this Baron and force them to come to us.
Yeah, and Teton didn't use any of his summoners in the last fight. Remember that he kind of just accepted his death. Might come into play here this time around. As you see Guigo trying to play bodyguard in the front line as Violet nearly able to chop down Aegis, but you can see he went a little bit too far forward. He's going to get taken out immediately. Babip has no chance either, as now we have the Kennen coming in as well, and there's just no help at all for the side of Peace as Vizicsacsi, you see he's getting his equalizer now. wish he would have had it for this fight as Peace overcommit and Red should take down the Baron.
Red in such a fantastic spot here now, as it should lead to a Baron. Vizicsacsi wants to try to steal it away. He's going to actually push Grevthar off of it for the time being by himself. This is going to be enough to maybe kill Guigo.
Hey, well, you can see that Vizicsacsi's getting some work done, and Titan, he can't seem to believe it. As the poke is coming out here, he is going to expend his flash to get that done, but it's just a kill.
This game is
Vizicsacsi
insane.
stops the Baron from going down.
This kill is great for Titan to grab, but they stop the Baron, and this is a great play for Vizicsacsi. He's able to make it happen by himself there. But it's not enough to get Peace back into this game necessarily. He does go down. His death timer is going to be for 30 seconds here. Peace now desperately trying to rush over that Baron pit and clear the count of five control wards that are around the pit there for the Baron. This gives Red a little bit of time to actually rotate over and take this Dragon. If they end up getting the Baron, they could maybe potentially threaten inhibitors to get the Dragon for free. At least Peace, not only do they stop the Baron, but they can remove some of that critical vision from around. They haven't gotten all the control wards, but they get some of it. But man, they are really struggling to get back control over the map. There was a split map before in terms of the vision. Now it's just so Red Canids favored on both sides. They get this vision, but it's only temporary as it's now cleared away.
Yeah, you can see Red Canids should be pretty happy with their position, especially after that last one. We're going to take a look at the replay and see how it goes down. Violet went so far forward and just took a huge helping of damage straight in his face, and that was so much damage that they lost right from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much damage in this choke point when you have, on top of it all, the Kennen with the slicing maelstrom. I talked about this happens so much, and then Vizicsacsi comes through here. The equalizer comes up right now. He instantly uses it here. And look at the damage onto Guigo. He's unable to compete. He's taking the Baron aggro still. It wasn't swapped early enough, so he's just completely pushed off. And 1v4, Vizicsacsi with a full health bar is able to stop the Baron. Yes, he dies for it. And it's, again, these trades we've been talking about so much around the Baron pit. It's not a trade you want to take. You don't want to die for this, but you can't let them get that critical objective.
I mean, you take a look at their reaction after the play. Red Canids, they are not happy with this one. They wanted the Baron, and nobody on either side of the rift at this point in time can seem to lock that objective down, as Violet is playing with fire right now. As here's the engage, they're going to look for Babip. He's in an unfortunate spot, immediately gets locked down. As we got the big wave coming on through, but Grevthar in the front line looking to lock it down. The flash kick not going to quite work out as they are kiting back very nicely. Grevthar off of Skarl now as the bubble does come in. They're trying to get at least one, but it will not be enough as Titan, he's going to thread the needle and take down the Sylas at this point in time. As now he is just controlling so much space as the super fed Ezreal with red buff.
Now, the health bars here are still low. They're going to start this Baron up, but unfortunately with no equalizer available just yet, Vizicsacsi decides to back here. There's not going to be the heroic stand we saw from Peace just moments ago to stop this. It looks like we are finally going to have that Baron taken here at 30 minutes in. Titan is 11-3-4 in this game. He's looking to finally finish off that tanky fourth item. He's already finished 2. Gets his tank item last here. And actually, no, he's going to go straight into the Guardian Angel. In fact, he decides to change that at the last moment because he knows that that extra damage is going to be so much more valuable. He's already so fed. This isn't an issue of survivability anymore. It's just about straight up carrying these fights and getting kills. He's got a strong enough front line with this Kennen to set up the stuns. As, Aladoric a bit far on the map.
Yeah, Aladoric is so dead. I mean, this is the most dead we have seen any one champion be in a little bit here. As Violet's like, yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Support. We're just going to have to let you down. He gets his own back off, and at least he will survive. But it's still going to be a nice little pick, denying some utility from the side of Peace, and should make this Red Bull Baron power play even stronger at this point in time.
Yeah, this is going to be so difficult to defend, if not impossible. I mean, we're at the stage, too, where Lucian is so low range. To get a pick, to get a flank angle, to try to actually do effective damage in this team fight is going to be so difficult for Violet. I mean, look, he's just ulting here to slow down the push, and he might die for it.
Okay, the equalizer gets a bit of damage, but I think it's not enough at this point in time. Titan is just gigantic right now as the kick comes in right into the open arms of Titan, who has a statement to make here in game number 1. The early laning phase as well wasn't even that fantastic, but he got a bunch of kills, and now he is just arcane shifting forward into the enemy. He's gonna get stunned up, maybe a little bit too far this time, but again, that GA is going to come in huge for him as he stays alive. Guigo does go down, but the damage is here. It buys enough time for his team to get a front line for him. As it's getting a little bit messy, we got Baron minions coming in as Tally and Aladoric are cleaning up shop. As we'll see if they do continue on this one. A lot of damage already done to this turret, and I'm not sure if Tally can actually stop them here, as Titan is quite literally just going to take everybody down one by one. The Nexus, not enough health to sustain against the damage that this Ezreal can do. Game 1 goes into the hands of the Red Canids.
And it looked like a series start that you dream of, right? I mean, so many kills this game, so much action. There were very rarely 10 living players on the Rift, but at the end of the day, it's Titan who trades kills early, gets through. He shows everyone that Ezreal's not a late game champion. Ezreal is a mid game champion. Gets a few picks that were unnecessary. Piece overextending, becomes so fed. He picks up the GA there at the end, makes a statement, and closes out the game. Looks like a game that might be defined by how well this Kled does. The unusual counter pick matchup there into the Sylas. We got to see the Rumble top. We saw some great plays. Vizicsacsi, for the first time, actually having a stable laning phase here in this tournament, but it wasn't enough at the end of the day as the Ezreal just completely shuts them down. I think we're going to have to see some draft changes here, and I think we're going to see a lot of hype for the rest of the series to come, Valdez.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we talked about in the draft as well. There's a reason why Grevthar is super happy. He got to play his Kled, and obviously Titan is kind of going to be the star, right, after having such a huge carry performance, but keep in mind that Grevthar was 2-0-1 on the Kled. He was carrying in his own right. A lot of his charges were controlling huge swaths of the map and really making it easy for Titan to carry as well. So really got to hand it to him. He got to play that pocket pick, and now, you know, what are Peace going to do? Do they ban it away? Do they try not to pick Sylas? You know, it really cuts down on some of their options in the draft.
Yeah, certainly. I think that there's there's so much to look at here for both of these teams, but the biggest standout for me, if I could just say one thing before we close, is that in a game where they didn't control the early game, in a game where they didn't have a massive tempo advantage, Red Canids were able to come into a dominant control over Vision, and that's a big change from what we've seen from them so far.
Absolutely. So, guys, the second series is underway. I'm going to hand it back to the State Farm analyst desk when we do come back, so don't go anywhere. We will continue with this series.
I woke up to the morning sky first, baby blue, just like we rehearsed. Sometimes I can't help the feeling that I'm living a life of illusion. And oh, why can't we let it be? See through this hole in the wall of confusion. I just can't help the feeling I'm living a life of illusion.
Deal with this early, but look at the damage.
Oh, he's going in. Violet's already looking for the kill, but the Ignite is down from Jojo. As 1Q is going to do it. Titan moves forward and gets the...
Welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk, where after that first game, we had to get up on our feet, just like Raz, to celebrate that one. We had to give him a bigger screen because the energy of that game, my friend Raz, it absolutely demanded it. Both of these teams just pulling off the gloves and going at it. Give me your thoughts.
This is what we needed, all right? This one woke me up. This one kept the Oceanic region awake. I had a can of Red Bull. I was drinking some energy drink, and I said, nah, I don't need the rest of this. This was just fun from the laning phase. When I see Lucian and Nami bot lane, I'm like, okay, let's see what Violet has to offer, because we know during the domestic region, I thought he was the best AD carry there, and we were waiting to see him get empowered. You see it here? But Chitan, man, Chitan is a viper.
I tell you this much, too. I'm not kidding when I say that these teams really took off the gloves and went at it. This is officially the bloodiest game in World's history. 1.51 combined kills per minute. 1.5 kills per minute, Dagda.
That is absolutely insane, but that was the thing. Every single opportunity that we saw, these teams wanted to go at it. We looked at them trying to make TP plays down bot for the Dragon. Now, it ended up a little bit back and forth, a little bit all over the place, but even, like, the second we moved off of the Dragon, we're like, cool, we're going to take a breather, we're going to be fine. And it was like, hell no, we're going to have Grevthar try and find more flanks in towards the mid lane. It just felt like we were always fighting every point of the game.
Yeah, I was thinking about talking about draft Raz, but honestly, I don't even think it's worth it at this point. I think we should watch some of this fighting take place. Like we said, it started early, 2 minutes in, and the bot lane said, that's it, screw minions, we're fighting.
Look how low Chitan was here, but he sees that opportunity, he takes that risk, gets the kill, and it's just a back and forth. The funny thing about this was, that 10-minute fight that happened, that 2v2 that happened bot side, was actually a big bounty for Chitan. Even though it was a double kill for the Lucian, he ends up getting 2 minion waves denied off him. This was just fun to see, and look at the Dragon fight.
Yeah, I mean, this was absolutely nutty. And I think as well, again, we're getting Vizicsacsi coming to this play a little bit faster than we saw from Guigo, because he had the reset, then tried to join in. So it wasn't exactly the best of starts for Red Canids, but as this game went on, surprisingly, they actually were playing out the map state pretty well. We saw that continuously Peace were trying to play up into Grevthar, trying to see if they could play and gank him, but it meant that elsewhere on the map, Grevthar was absorbing the pressure and Red Canids were winning out.
I like the call out about how well this started on the side of Peace, because in some way, or in a lot of ways actually, very similar to the first meeting of both of these squads, where Raz, it was very clear that Vizicsacsi was incredibly willing and always looking for the team play, and was the first to the TPs, having massive impact in the early game.
Yes, if you could see it from the stats in front of you, the CS difference that he had at 15 minutes, he had full control of that lane, and he wanted to be unlocked. And so you saw that in that Dragon team fight when they turned as well with Sylas. It felt like this was a game setting up Vizicsacsi to succeed. It was a flashless Kled, and so in their minds, get an amazing J4 ulti, have the Rumble ulti to back that up. But at times, the coordination wasn't there as a team, and you could see the fact that they weren't there, together for the full year. It was very apparent in some of the scraps, but it was awesome to see that fight between Chitan on one side and Vizicsacsi on the other.
Yeah, and you saw on occasions, like, it actually worked phenomenal, right? We got that quick pick on the Chitan. I was like, okay, the boys are starting to get rolling, but we then got in towards a couple of these other scraps, and it just looked very disjointed coming through from Peace, and Red Canids were able to solidify their wins through that, because when you look at Chitan, right, he got this early lead. Who gets to him? Who's actually going to have access to this Ezreal on the back line when you've got such a bruiser-focused composition that's able to play forward, keep yourself safe? And this was the fight where I thought, right, Grevthar, this is the engage. This is the big one. I'm a bit shaky on some of the other ults that we'd seen from him, but this was the fight that turned it around.
Yeah, 2 mistakes here that I saw from that fight, of course. The very obvious one was being Violet separated from the crew, was instantly deleted as they were trying to retake that spot as a team. And the other one was Vizicsacsi used his ultimate about, 30 seconds beforehand. So that gave confidence for Red Canids to take that fight, to bait a piece towards them. So I thought it was a great call from Red Canids, and it actually goes to show the constant development that they had as a team. And look at this, 41.6%.
That is insane. That is nuts. But when you look at the damage this guy was churning out, every Mystic Shot arcade shift, I was like, oh, that's just 3/4 your health bar gone.
Yeah, it was 2 days ago that we had another player drop 40% damage on his team. And I recall saying, normally that's not a good sign. Normally it means that not enough people were doing work on the rest of the squad to even out those percentages. But in this case, when it's the Ezreal who gets as accelerated as he did, Raz, you called out that early bounty picked up off of the Nami. Titan absolutely popped off in this one, and I think that's who we're going to have to keep our eyes on going forward. With Peace choosing blue side, Raz, I just want to get some quick final thoughts for you, or from you rather, before we dive into game number 2.
He's confident. Titan is very confident. That 16-minute just kill on Sylas mid lane on the wave, he is willing to play aggressively throughout this game. I remember seeing an image on Twitter. His mother said, play Ezreal. Seems like that confidence is there from the family tree as well. I think this has to be... you could already see the Peace team coming back, and it seems like their smiles. They are a very confident team. They can reset going into game 2. But I want to see them double down on Violet. I know he had a bad game, but he's a strong player consistently. I think he can bounce back.
All right, so moral of the story, listen to your moms. Your moms know best, all right? Pick Ezreal. Riff Reaction gets you closer to all the action, though, here at Worlds. Hear from Travis Gafford and Emily Rand as they react to plans. It's a new episode that drops on Sunday. Plus, they want to hear from you. This week, they want to know which player are you most excited to watch during Worlds and why is it Titan? Check out the Riff Reaction podcast exclusively on Spotify to cast your vote. We'll catch you here just after the break. Whew.